Right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're watching or listening to this from. This is the VVIP, Voters, Voices in Politics weekly wrap up of some of the activities that we've been up to. I have to mention the fact that this is brought to you proudly by Podcast Party SA and our amazing sponsors, and that is Halfway Toyota Four Ways. They hooked us up with the Starlet, and we've been traveling with it over the past couple of weeks. And, I am joined by one of our team members. She doesn't always join us on the road, but, she's just as important as the rest of us. Hello, Sims.
Hello, Jack.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic. So I introduced you, but I didn't introduce myself. So my name is Jack.
Oh, man.
Yeah, my name is Jack. Just another cool kid. Jack Mutlante right here. And I'm going to be hanging out with you guys for the next, 20 or so minutes as we unpack what we've been doing over the past week.
Okay.
Right. So we joined Mbalintuli on her road shows, and she's working with her company is called the Groundwork Collective, and they are doing the groundwork because their mandate is very simple: to go out there and register people to vote.
Awesome stuff. Love it.
Seeing as Uncle Posy has not told us when we are voting, we will continue in
Will
this
it even
mission.
happen this year, my guys?
We don't know. So was it yesterday or the day before? The state of the province speech. Mr. Panyaza Lusufi kind of let it slip that it's going to be on the 24th of May.
Ooh.
Kind of let it slip.
Ooh.
But we'll see. We will see.
Ooh.
The sooner we get a date, the better we can be prepared for what's to come.
Yes.
So on the road shows, we bumped into a couple of people this past week. We were at CJC.
Okay. Where is that?
Parktown. It's in Parktown.
All right.
They've got a couple of campuses, but we went to the campus in Parktown. And we bumped into a lot of very interesting individuals.
All right.
And you'll hear just how passionate some of them are, right? But before we get into any of this stuff, I have to first and foremost give a shout out to the lead voice on the show, which is Bafana Modise. Look, man, unfortunately, he was involved in a car accident this morning.
He survived.
He did survive.
Thank God.
He's a little banged up, but thank God he's going to be okay. But we're wishing him a speedy recovery, so that he can come back and do the right thing. Because I don't really host this show, so I'm sitting in his seat right now.
He's dragged me into this now.
But when you think about it, we did the very first episode of VVIP, if you remember.
Sir.
So I think it's like a full circle moment, right? So we were on the ground with Bafana Modise, and he did a couple of really great interviews. And the first one that I would like for us to talk about is with this young lady called Princess.
Okay.
Let's check out Princess.
Hello, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Buena.
I'm very good.
Your name?
My name is Princess.
Princess.
Yes.
Princess, this year we are going to vote on our engine.
Again, I want to see change and I want to see it right now. I want to see it happening right now.
Okay, so what is that change talking about? Give me two things.
Well, I want to see better schools. I want to see better improvements in education.
Yeah.
I want to see everything that hasn't been done being done.
But then there is many people out there who difference. What are you saying to them?
What I'm saying to them is, you guys, it's in your hands to change the future. If you don't vote, then there's nothing that we can see changing. You all should vote so that everything can change and we can have a better society and a better future for everyone.
Hey, Tara, so you heard it right here. CJC Johannesburg, I am Bafana Modise, Podcast Party, VVIP. Your vote, your voice.
So that's Princess. Did you hear the energy?
Yeah, she's.
I want change. I want
she
change.
wants it now.
Yes.
Like now.
Right
Not tomorrow.
now. Right now.
Now.
And when I think about how when we came across the group of people she was chilling with, they were a little bit like, no, activity and all of that stuff. But they ultimately answered some of our questions. And Princess was one of the first people.
Yes.
What I'd like for us to talk about is the amount of talk
Mm.
that happens around elections
Mm.
and the amount of action.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's a separation between those two things? Is it just talk, or are people really looking to put their, right to vote to action?
I think there is a bit of a separation. I think if you look at the number of people who have registered
Right.
to vote and that actually vote, there's a big difference.
Okay.
And so the issue I think a lot of people face is the first hurdle is to get registration. Boom shaka boom, you do it. And then the second hurdle is to get people to actually pitch up. And they don't pitch up for various reasons, and that's the issue as well, is why they don't pitch up.
It's kind of weird to me because registering is such a painless process.
Yeah.
And when you describe it as a hurdle, it kind of feels weird. You know what I mean? And for whatever reason, there's a lot of people that share your sentiment. Like it is some sort of a hurdle. It's weird to me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've always advocated for people to vote, but I
Right.
think I also have had it easy over the past few years. I go with my grand, so I go straight to the front of the line.
Okay.
I don't wait. I'm in, I'm out.
Using my Griza privileges.
But I've seen how long those lines get.
Okay.
And I've seen how you basically dedicate the entire day just going to vote.
I hear you.
Right? And I think that's what's off-putting for a lot of people, that it's quite old school. It's quite feels like a tedious process, But at the end of the day, it's worth it.
Yeah.
So if I did have to wait in line, I'd wait in that line.
Okay. No, I hear you. I hear you. And you know what? I'm also one of those people who's on some level allergic to lines. I hate standing in lines.
Yeah, but
Queues piss me off. And there's something weird about this country. I don't know if it happens anywhere else, but people just stand in lines in this country. People legit just line up. Hi, man. There's some places where you don't need a line at all. At all.
System of line. What do you mean?
No, man. For argument's sake, if we are ordering food
Sure.
at a fast food restaurant or
Sure.
whatever, when we are waiting for our food, we don't need to stand in line. I've seen a couple of people standing in line at Chicken Licken. What are you doing? You've already got a slip. It's got a order number for a reason. They're going to say order 24, and then you step up. You don't need to stand in a line.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah, it's weird.
To some extent, because those same franchises, right, when it gets really, really packed, sometimes being in front of the line, or you just slip your receipt and you just hey, can you just check my order real quick?
Yeah.
You kind of get served first, as opposed to it going according to the system and order 24, So sometimes I understand.
Okay, it's chilled. We've got a couple of other clips to check out from our time at CJC. Up next, we came across these young ladies that were sitting around at a table, and we decided to have a bit of a group discussion.
Okay, for 10 marks, what does the group have to say?
Yes. Okay. And as we all know, even when we were in high school and whatnot, within the group, it's a group task, Fede. But we know there's 2 or 3 that actually lift the heaviest part of the group assignment.
Please don't remind me of those days.
Oh,
I'm
bro.
so traumatized.
But anyway, back to CJC we go. Here we go.
This year we are going to a biggest election in the country. If I made you guys president, what are the first 2 things that you're gonna change today, Monday office?
Ndingaphelisa i-load shedding nethina asifunda kabuhlungu sifunda kabuhlungu asikwazi ukufuna bese nasemaresi wakhona akho ama-generator lonto leyo nemisebenzi hayi abazali bethu abanamisebenzi nathi siyafunda sibe nama-certificate mara needs ukusebenza
kunzima and I'm gonna go to.
So a couple of things were mentioned in that part of that clip.
Yes.
Let's tackle them one by one.
I only want to tackle one.
Okay, go.
It's the load shedding.
Yeah, I was going to start there. That's exactly where I was going to start.
It's the load shedding. Everything else, I see.
Right.
But I definitely, I do have a very, I don't know how our government works. We can have like electricity for 16 days straight when there's the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah.
But when the kids are writing exam,
Dololo.
stage 6.
Yeah.
So for me, I think also being the most realistic person I am, you know, you can't just take away load shedding overnight. You know, no. Like, you know, let's be honest with ourselves. You know, let's not live in Tululu, right? There's certain things knowing even whoever new government put in place, it's not going to end overnight. That's the reality of it, right? But I do think we need to prioritize certain things. So just like how hospitals shouldn't be getting load shedding,
right.
I also think like schools and varsities need to take preference in that context to say, okay, it's exam season, 2 weeks, no load shedding when they're writing at least, you know, or things like that, where it's like, okay, we're centering the load shedding schedule around the education system, because I think that's also very important. You want the kids to do well, and studying when the candles are on is not fun. I've done that once in my life.
Yeah,
it's not fun. It's
not.
Very stressful.
That's why a lot of our parents have reading classes and all of that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So I think for me, that's my biggest tackle with load shedding, and my like. Can we just get things in order? Like when Bafana is playing, we can have electricity, guys.
Yeah.
You know?
You see, that is exactly why I believe that this thing can be solved overnight.
Yeah,
because
but we know politicians, so.
Yeah, because of how convenient load shedding comes and goes. You understand?
But have you ever seen when we have those moments, right? So you must always pay attention. 16 days straight, Rugby World Cup, Bafana, you know, whatever event that's going on in the world where we do go extensive periods without having load shedding. When it comes back, stage 6. When it comes back, stage 4. They don't let you breathe and be like, oh, you know what? Let's go to stage 2. No, they're telling you now that like for the next 3 days, you're not going to see this electricity.
Yeah, but it's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish, because my mind cannot reconcile the fact that you gave us electricity. In fact, they were screaming and shouting about it last year, how we went 19 days without electricity.
So proud.
Like it's something to
so proud.
beat your chest about. You get what I mean? That tells me that not only do they have the capability to make sure we have electricity, they're actually doing this shit on purpose. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and like my whole thing is we need to get it sorted. We need to. I live in a very realistic world when it comes to South and how South African politicians move, right? Even if they could, you know, press a button, boom shaka boom, this thing is done. There are companies, people that benefit from load shedding that would not want that to happen. And that's the reality as well. I mean, how many companies have popped up now? Generators, solar. Yeah. There's even scams of this. So there are people benefiting from this crisis. And the minute you switch that off, there's going to be a lot more backlash than what we are doing now.
Here's my thing, right? There are a lot more businesses that suffer as a result of load shedding. There's a lot more of them than those that benefit.
Sure, but if the big dogs, right? If you think of like some of these solar companies and how expensive solar is to install and whatnot, and if you think of the profit margins, right? And I'm not saying that they anyway in this because they have dirty hands. No, I'm just making an example, guys. And if tomorrow load shedding ends, their business kind of takes, you know, immediate effect, and they have the means and power to kind of run after government. What I'm saying is, as compared to Ubab Kumalo at the corner shop, you know, with a corporate who has the means and the lawyers to kind of be like, yo, my guy, my business is not doing well.
I'm
And that's that. No, you
I'm
have
all
to,
about numbers. I'm all
Yes,
about numbers.
But what I'm saying is that we also have to be realistic in how the economy moves. The economy is not also this, you buy, you sell, you do things. There's people that monopolize, there's people that do things that are very shady and underhanded in order to get to where they want to get.
Yes.
Right. And we've seen it with even like what pharmaceutical companies, right? Where it benefits them for people to be sick.
Right.
And so they will always encourage that behavior because why? They make more money. There's a company or companies out there that are benefiting.
Yes, they are.
And so you first need to them first before you can just.
We need to what? Man. Here's what I'm saying.
Need to.
Look, all I'm saying is this. From just a numerical standpoint.
Sure.
If South Africans had that unity that we like speaking about all the time.
Yes.
This Ubuntu thing that we used to have once upon a time. No matter how big this corporate whatever thing can be. Bonabadi solar and all of this other stuff. If it's big enough of a problem for enough people, I don't care how big your company is, will the way you suggest. You understand? Anyway, there was something else that was mentioned in this in that previous clip, which is NEFSAS.
Yes.
I am very fortunate that my parents could afford to send me to school without the assistance of the government, right?
Yes.
And a couple of weeks ago, Gareth and I on the show, we were discussing a qualified franchise. So Gareth was of the opinion that if you are getting any type of government assistance, you shouldn't get the vote because you are not plowing back into the economy. When it comes to these kind of things like NEFSAS and whatnot, do you think we should disqualify certain people from voting because they are, quote unquote, a burden to the system?
No, not at all. And I can speak on it from I have a grad. She's a pensioner. And I've grown up with my grad, right? So I've seen kind of the benefits of her receiving her pension every month and what it's done for us, right? And if I had to discount her vote, right? Number one, I wouldn't have the privilege to go straight in line when it's time to vote. So maybe it would have changed the way I view voting. Right? Maybe I'm just saying from my own point of view.
Sure.
But also it would have changed how she views the country and the government. Right? She is someone that I've picked up. Like she is a believer in voting. And she's like, you need to go vote. You need to, even though I know where her vote's going, because you know
we might need to hide Magogo's ID.
You're right, but it's that thing of, because that has taken place, right? I've seen the fruits and benefited from that. And it's like, yeah, I still think she should get her vote. I just don't like the fact that I know where it's going. That's the issue.
Yeah.
That's the issue right there. I think it's the same with a lot of other kids out there that could be almost in a same or similar
situation
where, you know, it's your ticket to almost get out of the hood. Education is the way forward. And so it's a pity that at that moment in time, you can't afford these expensive tertiary fees and you do need to kind of lean on somebody else, which is sometimes government or sometimes, you know, the corporates for a bursary. I don't think because of your financial situation at home, you should not be given the option or the right to vote.
I hear you. And I agree with you.
Okay.
I do agree with you. So the group chat continued because we were trying to find as many opinions as possible.
Sure.
So we're gonna move on to the next clip.
Yes.
Trust me, what you're about to hear is not going to be the most kind thing that is said about our governing party. But then anyway, let's go.
Do you still believe that your vote counts, or you think, Jorge, we are fine?
We are fine. We are fine. We are fine because ukhokho wami wavota, umntanakhe wahlupheka, umntanaka gogo wahlupheka, nami ngiyahlupheka. So what's the point of me voting because nomntanami uzohlupheka?
Maybe ugogo abavotela umuntu eyi-one, avotela umuntu
akuchithela umbuyele, akuchithela umbuyele, akuchithela umbuyele. Now you're like, but
Kuyafana noma singavota. That one party will still win. Izohlala. I don't think it's going anywhere.
Okay.
Can I just first, as the only Zulu person, I think.
Umbuyele. That's what I was about to say. Like, yo, Mr. Mudisa, there's no such thing as umbuyele in Zulu. Like, why couldn't you just say ubuyele? Like, umbuyele.
The Zulu, yeah, iphume kanzima.
Yeah. It came out of the side of his neck. Like,
But
anyway.
yeah. Yes.
The thing that blew my mind when we were doing this. So like I was using the Zoom.
Yes.
So I had the headphones on.
Yes.
And that choral of Giafana was like,
gave me a bit of goosebumps and not in the right way.
Yo.
Not
like,
in the right way.
I thought to myself, there's no way all of them feel that it's pointless to vote. Like all of them that was a chorus, mind you. It sounded like an entire church choir, you know? And when they explained themselves, like as that young lady did, she was saying, you know, my grandmother voted.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, my great-grandmother voted.
Yes.
My grandmother struggled. My mother struggled.
And
here I am struggling. If I vote, what's to say that something will change? And when you track her logic, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes, but in the same breath, as Bafana was trying to point out,
yes,
if we keep going back to the same abuser,
right,
nothing's going to change.
Nothing is going to change.
So in that breath, it's like it's time to give somebody else a try. It's time to change gears. It's time to do something different, right?
Yep.
And the only time you get to play around and see if this works or doesn't work as a citizen of the country is by voting. You know, it's by saying, I'm not happy with you and I want somebody else. I like this policy. I don't like that policy. I think this guy can give me better than what you're offering, right? I think people need to look at it in terms of employment, right? And not in terms of I want a job, but in terms of who's going to serve me best? You know, am I going to get more money if I stay with this guy, or am I going to get more money if I go with that company, right? Parties. Do I like the work environment there? Do I not like the work environment here? You know what I mean? Like, look at it like that and you start seeing, maybe if I switch it up, I might go further in the long term. And guess what? If you do switch it up and you don't like, you know, the newbie, you can always go back to the ex.
Yeah.
Can always go
it's like a trial version.
Yeah, you just have to wait 4 years, but kumbuleka,
yeah.
Steez. So that's all I gotta say.
You know what? Like I firstly, I hear both of your sides. Like I hear what this young lady is saying, I hear what you're saying.
Yes.
And I think at some point we need to find genuine alternatives for the parties that we vote for. And what I mean by that is I think it's now more so than ever before, more important that we go into the policies that these parties want to bring about, and take note of how they affect us.
Yes.
Like, let's just say, let's hoy a random ACDP for argument's sake.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure,
you know.
Okay.
They put together their manifesto. You
Sure.
go through it and you pick things that affect you directly.
Sure.
And let's just say they get into power and they roll out their plan the way they said they would.
Yes.
And they execute on everything that they put into place. Would that be a country you want to live in? I think that's how we need to look at these political parties moving forward. Because if we do not educate ourselves on the policies and the manifestos that these people put together, I don't think any of us can make a genuine, intelligent decision in as far as who's best suited to govern the country moving forward.
That's true. I think reading the manifestos is one thing. I will
Sure.
tell you that I've battled with that. But I kind of always already have an idea of who I want to go for. So I just read up on one or two of the parties I already I'm like, you seem like my new flavor of the month. But I think in general, what I've seen as well is with everything that gets unpacked in this country, I think it's very important, and maybe I'm taking a jab at one of the parties,
Go ahead.
that we need to stop comparing what you do to the current ruling party, right?
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm over the ANC doesn't do this, but we do this. ANC doesn't do that, but we do. I know what the ANC is doing and not doing.
Yeah.
Don't remind me.
Yes.
I need to know what you're doing on your own.
Uh-huh.
So if you're gonna stand in front of people, in front of a mic, remind us of what you have done, the work you've done. You know, we started in
Share.
2020. We've built 20,000 houses. We
We've
said we're going
this.
to do this, going to do that. That will stay with me much more longer than doing the comparison tit for tat of, oh, the ANC is not doing this.
It actually, it reminds, what you're saying reminds me of something that I mentioned I think a week or two back, that I feel like it's an indictment on opposition parties, that even with all of the rubbish that the governing party has put us through, they haven't monopolized the space to tell us exactly what they are about. You know? And it's like, what more do you need? Like, what more motivation could you possibly need? The country, most people I know have voiced their discontent with the governing party. They've made it clear that they want some change and all of this stuff. But the problem is the majority of people are stuck in confusion because they don't know who to pick for, because no one has raised their voice in a way that inspires South Africans to want to vote for them.
Yes. And I think that's the biggest dilemma that we'll see this year. I mean, we have the longest list of parties, which just makes me mad. I'm like, no, what? But in that same breath, it just shows how, we're unhappy, man. And I think if you do take a bit of time, read the manifestos, be a better human than I am, do a bit of research of who works for you, who doesn't, but as well to the political parties, put in the work to remind us, you know, I stay in Gauteng, so I will always be more concerned of what happens in the province of Gauteng than in what happens in the Western Cape, for example, right? So that's also the thing, that if I'm hearing a lot of news about the Western Cape, you know, it seems like there's something happening as opposed to there's nothing happening here. And I think that's also another thing that a lot of political parties need to think of, is that focus on where you at, make noise where you at, the people you want to get votes in Gauteng, make noise in Gauteng, change things in Gauteng, do what you can do with the little that you do have available, because I also know how this country works. It's it is a bit giving Zimbabwe now and again, but do that and then remind us, you know, hey, we said we'll build 800 houses. Guess what? We did that. You know, we said 3 years ago we'll improve job employment. We did that. We've employed like 50 people. Like, that's what I want to hear. It makes it so much easier to follow that story and then read up on your manifesto to say, oh, you've always been this party, as opposed to I'm doing the research and I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys say you're gonna do this. Let me try and put my faith in a party. No, we done with putting our faith in a friend.
I hear you. Okay, I hear you. Thank you so much for that. So I think that's where we can end for this week. So as I said, this past week we were at CJC on Sunday. We were out at Deep Blue Square, had a couple of chats with people. It was really, really insightful. So for those of you who don't know how to keep up with the things that we're doing, we post all of these interviews on VVIP_ZA, TikTok and Instagram. That's where you can check these really, really interesting young people out. And we will continue as soon as Bafana's back on the mend. We will hit the road one more time and find out more from the youth of South Africa. Simphiwe, thank you so much for hanging out. You were amazing, as usual.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
I can't do the Bafana Medicine voice. Got again.
Hey, you better, you need to say it with your chest.
No, I was just going to say, got again. I had a lovely time talking politics and elections. This is not
Yes.
usually what I talk about
Yeah.
in my day to day. But it doesn't mean I don't have thoughts and opinions on it.
Yes, and your thoughts and your opinions were very insightful. You opened up my eyes to a couple of things. So thank you for hanging out. It's been great.
Alrighty. See you next time.
Yeah, people. We are out of here. That is VVIP, Voters' Voices in Politics, the weekly wrap up. And thank you for tuning in. See you next week.